So we will talk about the concepts of performance. That is, such as what is a single thread application? What do you mean by a thread? What is the meaning of a single thread application, and what is the behavior of this single thread application? This means only one task can be performed at a time. For example, in Tally, if we take an example of Tally.ERP 9, right? If we take Tally.ERP 9, if a user is passing voucher entry, and if other user is passing voucher entry, that is write activity in Tally, which can be served sequentially. That means to say that is the one activity. That is the behavior of a single thread application, wherein it will accept the request at one by one. Right? Like this is for example, this is a server machine wherein all the users of Tally is passing voucher entry. That means to say it will be accepted sequentially. Like one by one, it will accept. So we will move to the next concept called what is an SMB? That means to say what is a server message block? So it stands for server message block. SMB is a network protocol. It is a network protocol which is being used in a Windows-based computer that allows to share the file. Within the same network. Basically, in addition, it also allows computers connected to the same network or domain to access files from other local computers as if they are on a computer local hard disk, basically. So for example, in case of Tally's example, we have we have a server machine, right? It has a different server is having a XT and client is having a XT. That is through SMB the data will be transferred for a shared access. Right? What are the different versions of SMB? See, in case of we have understood about the SMB. You people are able to hear me, or is it too fast? Okay. So, different versions of SMB. There are several different versions of SMB used by Windows operating system. Like, for example, CIFS. This is the ancient version of SMB that was part of Microsoft Windows NT, which is NT 4.0, which was there in 1996. For example, this was a CIFS. This was the first SMB for Windows in case of Windows. Right? Which was superseded by SMB1 in this version. See, for example, SMB 1.0 or SMB1, the version used in are Windows 2000, Windows XP, Windows Server 2003 and Windows Server 2003 R2. Basically, why I am explaining these concepts and the different versions of SMB, as and when we go through this troubleshooting session, this plays an important role, basically, in addressing some of the performance issues. Right? So we'll continue. So SMB 2.0 or SMB 2, the version used in are Windows Vista, that is Service Pack 1 or later, and Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008. So next is SMB 2.1 or SMB 2.1, the version used in are Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 R2. Now, the latest thing which is called SMB 3.0 or SMB 3. The version used in this case are operating systems such as Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012. Right? So we will go to the continue with related to concept. There are SMB negotiated versions. Here is the table. Essentially, given below is the table which gives you the complete bifurcation of SMB is used as the SMB server. For example, if you have a client or server OS, Windows 8, SMB, if you are having a Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012, you will be having the SMB would be SMB 3.0. If you have a client server Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 or 2, then you will have SMB 2.1. And if you have Windows Vista Server and Windows Server 2008, then again it is an SMB 2.0. Previous versions of Windows, such as Windows Server 2003, Windows XP, Windows 2000 will have 1.0. Let us come to the second option. Like Windows, if you are having Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 R2 combination, you will have SMB 2.1. Again, with the same case, 2.1. So it will be, this table will help you in the micro level basically, how it works. Are people able to follow me? If you are not able to follow me, please message me so that I can halt there and I can explain you better. If I am so fast, I am like that. Okay, then we continue. So this is how the SMB concept. Again, Mr. Vikas wants to know about the SMB concept. So I am going back to the concept of SMB. Basically, it stands for Server Message Block, which is a network-based protocol used by Windows-based computers that allows systems within same network to share files. For example, if when I am coming to the Tally part, even Tally is dependent on Windows file sharing mechanism, right? If I want to share a data, I should have an operating system, and that operating system certainly will have an SMB component in it. Certainly have SMB component in it. So SMB concept plays a major important role in case of Tally's day-to-day activity basically. So this is how and it allows computers connected to the same network or domain to access files from other local machines as easily if they were on the computer's local hard disk. Let's say it allows the users. Mr. Hardik is just okay. So that is how the SMB concept works. Just a second. Mr. Vikas, yes, we will talk to, in case of, we will take this questions and answers in a later session. I will write it down. End of the session, I will answer your questions. Is that okay? Right. Mr. Sumati Saravanan wants to see the previous slides again. Ms. Sumati, actually we were talking about the first slide is basically about the single thread. What do you mean by single thread and how it works? Single thread is nothing but only one activity will be performed at a time. That means to say, in case of Tally, in terms of Tally, if you have basically voucher entry, write is a one activity. Write activity can be performed at a sequential part. That is called single thread. That means to say, overall, this means only one task can be performed at a time, as Tally.ERP 9 is a single threaded application, the request sent by the application to database will be served sequentially. Is it you are able to follow, Smriti? Okay. Okay. So it is a pictorial presentation how it works basically. So version entry is a write activity. So write activity will be accepted and served sequentially. For example, if there is a write read activity, let me say if I am writing a voucher and if there is a report being accessed, so that will become two activities. Since Tally is a single thread application and it gives preference for read first. For example, if any report being fetched, that particular person will get the first preference and then the rest of the activity will be accepted sequentially. So Sumati, is it clear? Okay, so we'll continue. So we were discussing about the concept of assembly, which we were in a second slide basically. So I have already explained once again what is an assembly, how it works, and different versions of assembly, right? And the third side talk about the tabular format of this basically. So now we will have other things. How assembly works? Now we are coming. Now we understood what is assembly, different versions of assembly, and now how assembly works. So this is basically a pictorial presentation. So client is sending a request, server is sending a response, right? The above diagram shows the way how assembly works. That means to say client is connected to the server via TCP/IP. Okay, basically even when you are transferring the data, you are sharing the file, but internally the data transmission will happen through a TCP/IP layer. Right? Server makes file systems and other resources. For example, it may be the printers, it may be the applications, or it may be the files API available to the client on the network. That is, the server will make these kind of things. Client computers may have their own hard disk. Typically, if you are having, you can see the thick client mechanism wherein clients will have their own hard disk, but if they want to share the file and printers and server. In case of Tally, if you are writing the data and reading the data, this will run, in case of network environment, it will run through a TCP/IP protocol. The data transmission happens, right? So basically, in case of vice versa, client will also connect to the server using TCP/IP protocol. Once the connection is established, then this write-read activity happens. However, in case of assembly, these things are done over the network. So if you have a standalone kind of a machine, like if you have two standalone machines, this assembly concept will not exist basically. Any doubts? Can we continue? Okay. So we are continuing the concept of performance. Basically, now we are coming now we are understanding more about the Tally's perspective. Now we have understood the general performance perspective about the single thread application and what is assembly, different versions of assembly, and how assembly works basically. Now we are coming more into the topic centric. That means today's topic centric, Tally centric. Right? How memory utilized in Tally application? Right? So basically, Tally application will consume 227 MB of RAM during execution. That means to say, whenever you invoke Tally, whenever you open Tally, it till that select company option, till this memory, till the list of company populated, it consumes approximately 227 MB RAM. And the memory consumption increases while loading the company. It depends on the base, it depends on the master and processing the reports. Why the memory consumption? Okay. Why the memory consumption increases? Because whenever there will be a report, there will be some report wherein at the time of whenever you want to fetch that information, it has to give you in a flash. Such reports are, for example, the balance sheet, the stock summary, the profit and loss account, the ratio analysis, to provide you the quick response. Tally will store those information locally, right? So the memory consumption depends upon the company data basically. So let us assume. We'll take an example. And we will assume. Let us calculate the memory required to load a company which has 1,50,000 stock items and 3 lakh ledgers. So we have taken a high-end, basically higher up example, so which is regularly used. We have heard from the market that what is the memory required. So this table gives you the clear picture. What is the required memory? What is the required memory in case of a 32-bit application and in case of a 64-bit application? Right? To load a company, it requires 227 MB, whereas you can see there is a high, wherein in case of 64-bit, it requires 295 MB. That means to say 64-bit operating system and 64-bit Tally.ERP 9 application require and will consume 30% more memory than its 32-bit counterpart. Right? Loading stock items, that means to say 1,50,000 stock items will have 4 KB each per stock item. It requires 586 MB precisely. In case of 32-bit application, in case of a 64-bit application, there will be an increase of 30% more. It requires a 762 MB memory, right? And if you for loading ledger master, wherein it has 3 lakh ledger master, it is just a general example. There is no hard and fast rule that you will have this kind of database. Yes, here and there will be an approximately. The time depends on the database, sir. Basically, from accounting software, the question was asked how much time it will take. It depends on the data size. That's what we were discussing actually, right? Loading ledger master, it's precisely an example which we have taken. Loading ledger master 3 lakh. Ledger master into 3 KB, 879 MB. We are talking about the memory consumption or memory utilization. It requires 879 MB. In case of a 64-bit application, it requires 1143 MB. That means this is 1.1 GB precisely. And other stat masters 200 MB and 260 MB respectively. So totally, in case of a 32-bit application, it requires 1.8 GB or precisely 1.9 GB, and in case of a 64-bit application, it requires 2459 GB. That means it is 2.45 or 2.5 GB. What will happen in case of now it has already consumed 1.8 GB or 1.9 GB? Moment when you invoke Tally, once after the application is invoked, if you go for any other report, chances of out of memory will be more, because in any given scenario, 32-bit application will consume only paging will happen only till 2 GB. Beyond 2 GB, it gives you the out of memory. So we will continue. There was a question. So there was a question asked by two accounting software, wherein means for 32-bit 2 GB RAM per second, not per second, basically per system. In this particular example, we have 2 GB is recommended. It depends upon the data, basically, right? So basically, Mahajan computers are asking a question: how much memory used for transaction of vouchers? Basically, it depends on the line items, number of line items, and it depends on the number of line items, and it depends upon the whether the data is containing multiple financial year, and it depends upon the volume of the voucher, right? So we will continue with the session. Now, again, the concept of performance, still we are continuing memory calculation. In the above scenario, if customer is using, for example, in the above example, if customer is using 32-bit OS, he would definitely get out of memory. So we have discussed it, and because since the memory is already in a borderline, which is of 1.9 GB, so it's a definite that customers will get out of memory. The reason being of insufficient memory to further process of the data, as Tally application requires 1 GB of operating memory. Based on such calculation, we can inform the customer. Basically, if in case of such additional operating image, so it's already occupied 1.8 GB. Since Tally requires again operation and memory as 1 GB, in such cases, in case of 32-bit application, it is a definite that customer will get out of memory. So in such cases, we can inform the customer to upgrade his infrastructure to 64-bit and use native Tally 64-bit application. Now we will come to the differences between 32-bit. There is a good question raised by Mr. Jayanti Bhai Patel. Mr. Jayanti Bhai Patel, even if you are increasing the virtual memory, the paging will work up to only 2 GB, right? And additionally, if you are increasing the virtual memory, there will be a difference in the performance when compared to if you are using a physical memory. And it is 100% sure that moment when the paging goes to beyond 2 GB, system will throw out of memory. So better in such cases, it is recommended to install a 64-bit operating system and recommend 64-bit Tally.ERP in an application. Right? So that answers your question, Mr. Jayantilal. I understand that that answers your question. Thank you. So we'll further go to the thing. What is the difference between a 32-bit application and a 64-bit application and the 32-bit application? It is not only Tally, any other application we have taken, right? 64-bit program uses about 30 to 50% more memory than their 32-bit counterparts. This is to say, if you are having not only Tally, if you are having any application, if you are having a 64-bit application and if you are having a 32-bit application, it consumes 30 to 50% more physical memory than 32-bit applications. Right? 64-bit operating systems are usually around 10% faster than their 32-bit counterparts. It is not. There is a question from Gateway of Business participant. Is there any question is a way to know which Tally is already installed 32-bit or 64-bit? Yes, there is a sample. So you can, I will show you that actually. I may be rolling back to your desktop, right? So you can go to Task Manager, right? You can see the applications basically, or you can see the processes. So, for example, if there is any Tally, this is you can see which operating system this is, right? You can right click and go to Properties. Basically, this is a 64-bit operating system, right? This has a 64-bit application, 64-bit operating system. Now, how to identify whether the Tally which I'm used? No, once the Tally application is invoked, it will show in the Task Manager, sir. Gateway of Business, that is a question. Mr. Hardik, just a second. Now you are able to see, sir, the desktop. Okay, just a second. I'm making a slight adjustment. So how we can identify whether the Tally which I am using is a 32-bit or a 64-bit is, like you can click on Task Manager, right? It will show you the process. So I will invoke a Tally application here, right? So you can, in Task Manager, you can see the memory consumption also, how much. So now you are able to see whether I am invoking a Tally 32-bit or a 64-bit. So it is showing here. That answers your question, right? That answers the question. Okay. So we will continue. Now you can see the memory consumption also. Now you can see the memory consumption also, which is 273 MB, which is taken in case of the 32-bit, right? To execute the complete company, right? Moving back to, right? So we were discussing about the 32-bit to 64-bit. In case of a 64-bit, Mr. Narasimha Rao has a question. For multi-user, how much we should recommend? Sir, actually, we will walk through that also. We will walk through the system configuration and other stuff basically. It will be a next slide. When it comes, we will surely explain you. Is it okay? Okay. So, if you see that when you compare we were talking about the difference between a 32-bit and a 64-bit application. 64-bit operating system will have an improvement in terms of performance when compared to 10% faster than its 32-bit application. So that's the major difference between a 32-bit and a 64-bit. Apart from that, it will use the memory consumption will be utilize the full available memory to provide to give you the desired report. So next we will go to the memory allocation in Tally. How the memory allocates in Tally, right? So basically you can see what is the memory consumption or what is the KB, kilobytes per master. If you have a group, per group it requires 3. It is still it is still 128 approximately. And Mr. Anil, Mr. Anil's question is how much memory can be used by a Tally 64-bit maximum. Whatever available physical memory is there to provide you the report, it uses that much, sir. But say for example, if you have a 16 GB RAM and if that memory, if it requires 8 GB memory, it uses all the 8 GB and it will give you the report in case of 64-bit application, Tally.ERP and 64-bit. Whereas in case of Tally 32-bit applications, to execute the same report, it requires 8 GB for example. After 2 GB, once the memory consumption reaches 2 GB, it gives you out of memory. It is not only Tally. Any 32-bit applications will, if the paging is still up to 2.2 GB, and when it crosses 2 GB, it gives you out of memory. Mr. Anil, whether that answers your question, please respond me back chat. Thank you very much. We will continue with the memory allocation in Tally.ERP 9. Right? So, for accounting groups, basically, we have said it is 3 KB per master. That means per group it requires 3 KB. Ledgers 3 KB, stock groups 3 KB, categories 3 KB, and stock items is 3 KB. So like cost categories, cost centers, it requires 3 KB. And again, batches, it will be bit more to 5 KB, godown 5 KB, and classification, tax classification 5 KB. Basically, the record cache to store a transaction. So, in case of from Mahajan Computer, there is a question related to payroll. So, payroll will also, it depends on the employee masters and cost centers. Basically, cost center and cost category is one and same. Basically, I understand it should be within 3 KB, sir, the file size per master size. Right? So, record cache to store a transaction is 256 MB or 20% of physical memory, whichever is lower. It is not higher, in this case it is lower, whichever is lower. Right? So, now we will continue with the that depends, the question from it is record cache is nothing but the voucher entry or the voucher details or the voucher information which is cached in the hard disk. To catch this, to catch that information in the hard disk, so that whenever you invoke the report, such report, like say for example, it may be a balance sheet, or it may be a profit and loss account, or it may be a stock summary. Whatever the information, balances and other stuff, we will call it as a record. In a technical language, it's called as a record. That information will be cached in the hard disk, so such that whenever you require that report, it will fetch at a faster pace. Mr. Question from Kamalesh Jai is it, I think so, we think it is basically a memory access violation or memory access issue. So, both are a different topic altogether. So, whenever we are having a data troubleshooting session, we will surely answer to this. Hardik Divya is having a question. Is it minimum memory or maximum memory? It's a minimum memory, sir. It depends upon the data size. The record cache will happen. So we will continue with the, is it followed? Please respond me back so that we can continue. So now, what is the recommended or a minimum system configuration that requires to operate a multi-user Tally or a single user Tally? If you are having a Tally application 32-bit, Tally application 32-bit can be used, Tally application, if you have a Tally 32-bit application can be used with a setup on a regular hardware setup with a minimum of 2 GB RAM and dual core or higher processor. So that is a minimum requirement for a 32-bit application, right? For a 64-bit Tally application can be used on a regular hardware setup with a minimum of 4 GB RAM and i3 and above, right? So again, there is a class involved here. Note, system configuration would differ from case-to-case basis. It purely depends upon the data size, number of users, types of data sharing, whether it is a network sharing or a network data sharing or a RDP data is it being used in a RDP environment, that is remote desktop protocol environment. It is always advisable before recommending any system configuration. It's basically kind of a guideline for our partners. It is always advisable to collect the full data statistics before suggesting the system configuration. There was a question from Mr. Mahajan, I believe, right, about the system requirements. I think, sir, this answers your question, right, sir? Is it? Are you able to follow, or can we proceed? Again, there was a question from two accounting softwares. Why a duplication ledger happens to LAN while accessing LAN/remote login? Sir, again, this is pertaining to a data error and technical troubleshooting. We had a session on this. It was discussed in that session. Basically, we are purely concentrating on basically data and technical is a wider concept and wider subject, because of which we have segregated the performance, the sessions for three sessions basically. One for data and technical troubleshooting, and data performance troubleshooting, and data interchange. You will have a session, sir. So, respective questions can be asked in the respective session, sir. Sorry to intervene in that. So we will discuss about performance here. If you are having any questions related to performance, you will. There are a few questions from Anil. Mr. Anil's question: what will happen if 64-bit OS, 4 GB RAM, and dual core processor? Basically, it's a recommended, it is a basic system configuration. Again, the processing speed depends. So if you have a i3 processor, it depends on the processor speed. So dual core, in case of a dual core, the processor speed will be comparatively when compared to Core 2Duo or a i3 processor or a i5 processor, the processing speed will be less, right? That's what I'm telling. It's basically a minimum system configuration what we are recommending. Again, there will be a class. System configuration will differ based on the data statistics. So because of that only we are recommending, before suggesting any system configuration, it is recommended to study the environment or the customer's environment and the data statistics. If that answers your question, Mr. Anil, can you proceed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jeevan, for helping me. Basically, right? So we will continue with our The transaction size, again, it depends on the number of stock items. Like per voucher you will have, it may be the per voucher you will have 512 KB also. It starts from 512 KB. And it depends on the number of line items you will be using in the transaction. It may, there may be a possibility that transactions may go up to MBs together. MB in the sense 3 MB, 4 MB, it depends upon the number of transactions and the number of line items. Again, it comes to the micro level, number of line items, number of line items, number of bill references used, number of batches if any, so it has all the information, so it depends on the, starting with 512 KB basically, right? So we will go to the next discussion. So now we will come to the real performance troubleshooting. So these are the few frequently asked reported issues. No, there was a question from Mr. Anil. It doesn't have an impact. It depends on the client system configuration, and it is we will discuss in details when we discuss the troubleshooting during the troubleshooting discussion. Right, Mr. Anil, is that okay? Thank you very much. We will continue. So the frequently asked questions or frequently reported issues are company loading takes time. Why company loading takes time? Right, we will walk through. What is it in case of scenario 1? The scenario 1, what it says, system configuration versus data volume. So in such cases, what you are supposed to do, what as a partner or what as a support executive you are supposed to do, right? So you have to check before jumping to a conclusion. It is recommended to check what is the data size as per the below details. It may be a number of vouchers. Is it too fast? Are you people able to follow, sir? Okay, thank you very much. So, in terms of, you have to check the data size in terms of below total number of vouchers, total number of accounting masters, total number of inventory masters, number of batches. So, while we are being discussed number of vouchers, number of accounting masters, number of inventory masters, number of batches is because all this information created impact. Basically, all this information is very important to conclude whether the time taken to load a company is acceptable or not acceptable, or is there any fine tune needs to be done. So because of that, you have to check these information. So again, the second point is check whether the data contains multiple years of data. Check the physical memory. This is the main thing. This is the main thing which you have to check. Check the physical memory consumption of Tally application, check whether the overall memory consumption is reached to a virtual memory. For example, I will be having a Tally, or I will be having a system configuration which has 1 GB. And let us, before this presentation, let us assume a customer is having a 1 GB RAM and he is using a Windows 7 operating system. So, in case of Windows 7 operating system itself requires a 512 MB to, it will occupy 512 MB. So, remaining you have a 512 MB again. So, if you have a data like this, Mr. Ali has a good question. Yes, certainly it will improve, but you have to, we will discuss it out in detail, sir, when we are having the troubleshooting, whenever we are going to a solution approach. I will show you how you can check the virtual memory. So what will happen? I will explain and I will then show you in the practical scenario how this will be in case of virtual memory, how to check the virtual memory. Right? In case of overall memory consumption and whether it is least virtual memory. Let us take an example. As an example, Windows 7, 1 GB RAM, and operating system requires 512 MB, and Tally requires basically 1 GB or 1.5 GB. What will happen the moment when the physical memory reaches, so it goes to a virtual memory. We will show definitely in because I will definitely show you the practical scenario how to check the virtual memory consumption, right? Just a second. So again, you are able to see my desktop. Can you people please respond me back? Okay, thank you. So now we will see what is the memory consumption in this case, right? Now this is called a memory consumption wherein it has consumed 1.29 GB, right? So you can see here physical memory. It is 2.934 GB, and what is the cache? Cache memory which is already cached. It is 1375, right? And available memory is 1609. Okay? That means you have available memory as 1609. That means out of this system configuration is basically here. You can see the system configuration by doing this. Right? This is a 3 GB RAM. This is a 3 GB and 4 i5 processor with 3 GB RAM and a 64-bit Tally application. 64-bit operating system. Right. Once it crosses virtual memory, once it crosses physical memory, you will get the virtual memory will be shown here in this column. In this column it will be shown. Because since this is not occupied, the virtual memory, because of that it will be existing. So basically it is still in a physical memory. Now I will invoke Tally, which requires 275 MB. Now you see the memory will go up. Now you are having a available memory of 1.317. Right? I will close Tally. Now the memory will be, even if you are minimizing the Tally, the memory won't be released. So now I will close Tally. Then the memory will be released to 1.30 GB. So you can check whether the system has gone to virtual memory or not in this screen, sir. Right? Is it answers the question? Okay. Thank you very much. We will continue. So now we will come to the solution part. Right? And this checking of physical memory is also recommended. Don't invoke Tally. Without invoking Tally, what is the memory consumed and what is the available memory you have to check. If you are having a system configuration as discussed in the example 1 GB, and if you are already occupied 500 MB, and now you are having before invoking Tally, if you are invoked the Outlook and other stuff, then again it goes to 700 MB and your remaining memory is 250 MB. So it is recommended to, in case of those scenarios, it is recommended to increase the system configuration. Right? So we will go to the solution approach. If you have huge data with number of vouchers, number of masters, number of inventory information, number of batches, company loading takes time depending upon the statistics. It is a clear thing. Because it has to walk through all the information, it has to walk through the batches. When you are loading the company, it has to display you the stock summary at a faster pace, or frequently accessed report at the faster pace. It has to calculate the balances and it has to keep those information in the cache. It will take time, not like if it is taking hours together, then it is a different problem to address. We need to see, in that case, we need to navigate in detail and we need to see what is the problem. There is a good question asked from Mr. Anil. Loading multiple tally to handle multiple companies or same tally loading multiple companies, which is recommended. Again, Mr. Anil, in this case, if you have for example, you have let us assume that you will load 3 instances of tally. 3 instances of tally requires, let us assume, worst case, let us assume it requires 500 MB to load a company. So you have a system configuration which has a 2 GB. Right? In any case, you require 1.5 GB, and it is recommended if you open in a single company, in a single instance of tally, your application memory will be reduced. That means to say, for example, if it is required to 257 MB, 272 MB for 3 instances, it comes to around 700 MB or 800 MB approximately. I am giving you the figure. So that will be eliminated if you are loading in a single instance of tally. Is that answers your question, sir? Thank you. So we will continue with the solution aspect. Company loading will take time depending upon the above statistics. So it should not take hours together. Let's say, for example, in this scenario, Pratik's question is, what do we do then when the company is opening server but not in client? Mr. Pratik, surely we will discuss it out when we are walking through the presentation, when we are walking through this entire session. It is also, we are trying to cover that part also. Don't worry. No, it doesn't. It is not. It depends on the number of vouchers. From Vaishali's question is it dependent on number of vouchers entered per day? Indirectly, it also contributes. It is not that you cannot. Whenever you load the company, it walks through all the information, Vaishali. Does that answer your question? Please send a message through chat. Okay. See, Ms. Vaishali, your question was, Ms. Vaishali's question was, is it dependent on number of vouchers entered in a day? For example, whenever you are loading the company, if in the above scenario, right, it is a okay, it is related to, we will discuss in detail. Basically directly contributes to the number of transactions entered in a day. So what, Ms. Vaishali, can you just, how many, as of now, what is the number of entries? Ms. Sunit, 400 vouchers should not create any problem. We will discuss it out in detail. Okay. Chetan Peche's question is, while entering vouchers, we will surely, Mr. Anil, we will discuss it out. We will discuss it out in the detail. We will answer to your question. If Ramanu Singh has a question, please we will take the question. Right? I will try to answer all the questions if possible. So we will go to the solution part. Once we walk through the solution, you will be understanding. You can get the relevancy to your questions also. If not, we can discuss it out at the end. Right? So company loading will take time depending upon the above statistics. If you are having more number of vouchers, it requires time to load a company. Second, if the data contains multiple vouchers, then check the possibility of splitting the data. Mr. Anil's question, I think so, I am covering here. Ensure that all pending bills are cleared. That means to say, if you are having any outstanding bank reconciliations, and if you are tracking with the purchase order, sales order, ensure that all those are clear and then proceed with the split possibility. The third solution would be if customer is not ready to split the data, and you can add there is a parameter in Tally.IRP. I will show you practically. You have to set the option to load buffering equals yes in server and client INI. I will show you that option. By default, that option would be yes. So I am right clicking on Tally, properties. So I will go to Tally.IRP. Right, there is an option called load buffering. Mr. Ketan, I will answer your questions. As and when we are walking through the presentation, you will surely get your answer. If you are not able to get the answer, we can take the question and answer at the end. Please, shall I continue, sir? Mr. Ketan? Okay, thank you. How we can, by default, this load buffering option will be yes. So with this option set it as yes, what Tally will do, Tally will load all the balances so that you will get whenever you access the data, whenever you are accessing the balance sheet, profit and loss account or stock summary, it will give you the multiple years of information at a faster pace. Now, when you set this option as no, what it does, it will load only the current year's running balances. It will not take to the multiple years, it will not catch the multiple year balances. It will catch the current year balances. Whenever you open, then there will be a definite improvement in terms of company loading. You are able to follow? Okay. So what will happen in this case? Company loading will be faster. Moment when you go to balance sheet, for example, when you go to balance sheet, if you change the period to the previous financial year, it will take time because that information has to be cached again, right? So now the company will be loaded faster at a faster pace, right? Only whenever you are accessing earlier information, earlier years report, it will take time. Right? We can proceed. So based on the existing system configuration, that is, Mr. Sanjay wanted me to explain it again. Sure, I will explain. So, Mr. Sanjay, when you by default this load buffering equals will be yes. So why that is given as a default thing is, whenever you load a company, it will if the data is of multiple financial year, it will cache the entire balances in the system, in the hard disk, so that whenever you are accessing a report, it gives you the you are accessing a report such as stock summary, balance sheet, profit and loss account, which is a frequently used report. It will give you the information at a faster pace when compared, because it has already cached the information in the system. When you set this option as no, your company loading will be faster because it will cache only the current year balances. And whenever you are going to the frequently used reports such as balance sheet, profit and loss account, such as these reports, it will show you the current year information at a faster pace. If you want to fetch the previous year information, it will take time. If that answers you are able to understand that? Mr. Sanjay, please respond me back to chat. Thank you very much. We will continue. So based on the system, next solution would be, based on the existing system configuration, that is processor and RAM, if there is any memory crunch. What is this memory crunch? It is nothing but if the system is already in a virtual memory, so it is recommended to check or suggest the customer to go for a higher end configuration in terms of processor and RAM. Ms. Monica wanted me to explain the load buffering option again. See, what will happen in case of, by default, when you go to Tally.INI, Ms. Monica, it will be by default that option will be yes. What this option will do, if it is yes, whenever I load a company, it will walk through all the information and it will get, if the data is of multiple year, irrespective whether the data is of multiple year or a single year, it walks through all the information and it will fetch you the details. And whenever you access a frequently accessed report such as stock summary, balance sheet, profit and loss account, trial balance, any other report, the information fetched to you will be faster, at a faster pace, because the records are already cached in the system. Now, in case of a multiple financial years data, I am stressing this word, in case if the customer is having multiple financial years data only, right? You can set this option as no. What that will do? It will, whenever the company is loading, it will only current year records will be cached so that the company loading will be faster. And if you are going for the frequently used, going to access the frequently used reports such as balance sheet, profit and loss account or such things, sure, once Ms. Sunita wants this PPT, sure we will share this PPT, madam. Right? Once the company is loaded, then the reports and other stuff for the current year which will be open at a faster pace. Only if you are accessing a previous year's details, it will take time. So we will continue. See, the fifth and foremost solution would be, for example, let us take an example. I have a 50,000 stock items. A customer has a 50,000 stock items and 50,000 masters, wherein I will be using only 2,000 or 3,000, or let us take a higher number, which is 25,000 stock items. Rest of the 25,000 stock items or 25,000 masters are unused. That means to say, he has created that master and he is not using those masters. This will also play an important role, because it has to walk through all the information. Then in that, others had a good question. If that user is basically if that masters are used in the previous year and not used in the current year, then you can check the possibility of splitting the data. Even if it is carrying forward, you can remove those unused masters. Is that answer to your question, Mr. Sir? Participant from other solutions? Please respond me back. Okay, thank you. So, coming back to this example, what Tally will do, it will accumulate all the 25 or 60,000 stock items to load a company. So, that will also contribute to the consumption of time. In that case, you can check with the customer, don't take a decision. Please check with the customer and confirm from the customer whether the rest of 25,000 or 30,000 masters is being used regularly or not being used regularly. Is it just created simply? And then you can take a call of removing such master so that the company loading will be, the time consuming, the consumption of time to load a company will be improved. In such cases, you can escalate such issues only. That is to say, where you wanted to remove the stock items and other stuff, you will do that. Right? Can we continue? Okay. So now we will go to the next component scenario. If there is any customization involved, please check without customization. Right? You can compare the time taken with and without customization. Solution would be, if it is taking time to load a company with customization, it is recommended to check by optimizing such customizations. Yes, to some extent it will also consume memory. The question from Anil is, does system customization will consume memory? Yes, it will because it has a UDF, user defined fields in the database. It will consume the memory. Does that answer your question, Mr. Anil? Thank you. We'll continue. So the next scenario 3. If there are any antivirus, Shweta's question is how to optimize customization, because that depends. You have to go for a solution partner, and there will be a certain UDF wherein there will be a walkthrough and some functions will be there. The functions need to be optimized. That you can take a help of our developer team if you have done a customization, and we will definitely help you in optimizing that. Or we will help you. Sumati wants to go back to the previous slide. Is this the slide, Ms. Sumati? Ms. Sumati, okay. So, you want me to explain anywhere? You are stuck anywhere here? Can we continue with the next preceding slide? Okay, thank you. Okay, so, check by loading the company with customization and without customization. If there is any difference, it is recommended to optimize. It is recommended to check by optimizing the customization. Right? Scenario 3: if there are any antivirus being used by the customer, so you have to exclude Tally-related files, that is Tally.ERP9, TDL-server.dll, TDL-server.dll from the exception list of antivirus. If there is any provisions in such antiviruses, you can try by excluding the extension files, that is store.tsf and store.900. So it has to be done in the server and client system. Scenario 4. This is a widely asked question, like if the data contains C4 violation method, it is not that in all the scenarios you will get the problem of loading the company, right? In certain cases, right? In certain cases which I will explain. So if the data contains C4 violation method, and don't jump into a conclusion that if the data contains the C4 violation method, it will take time. No, it is depending upon the scenarios which we will explain. We will surely show the examples, madam. It's not question, please show the example. So we will surely show the example. In such scenarios, if it is taking time, whether integrating accounts with inventory option will take time. That should not take time, Mr. Anil. Anil's question was whether it will take time in case of F11 integrate accounts with inventory. It should not take time. Yes, you can. Question from there was a question actually. Can we exclude only Tally.ERP9, complete Tally.ERP9 folder? Yes, you can proceed and exclude. Right? This response Gavade question is that we are already facing this problem. it depends on the case-to-case basis. We need to handle it in a case-to-case basis, basically, right? Ms. Reshma, it can be handled in a case-to-case basis. We will discuss about the FIFO valuation part. So every FIFO valuation data, if you get any such issues, don't jump to a conclusion that yes, it will take time because the customer is using the FIFO valuation method. There is a scenario in which only it will take time. Right? So what is to be done in this case? So you have to check if the data contains FIFO stock valuation method and check for below details. So you have to check this scenario. Is there any purchase bill pending? Check whether the data contains more inwards and less outwards. So what will happen whenever the company has a FIFO stock valuation method? If you have more number of inwards and less number of outwards in this scenario also, there is a chance of it takes time. Check for the pending orders if any. If there is any pending orders, you have to check that. The solution would be, if the customer is using FIFO valuation method with the above mentioned details, means to say, in the above mentioned scenario, if the customer is using FIFO valuation method with the above details, it is recommended to check before concluding is confirm it from the customer. Please inform the customer to change whether he is agreed, whether he is ready to. Mr. Anil's question is again why companies more in. I'll answer one by one. First, let me answer Mr. Anil's question. Mr. Anil's question is why the company loading shows closed stock at 90%. Mr. Anil, in this case, if it is having batches, if there are reference, which is more number of references, references are there, in that scenario, it will take time and it will stop at 90%. And it will proceed after some time. It is basically a scenario wherein you have the references are more. Is that answers to your question, Mr. Anil? Okay. And the second question was, couldn't get more inwards and than less outwards. That was the participant question. Other sets of solution. See, more inwards and less outwards. So whenever what is the FIFO valuation? What is the FIFO method stand for? First in, first out, correct? More inwards is nothing but I have more inwards, that is to say more receipts or more purchases than sales. Correct? That means to say more receipts notes than delivery notes, or more GRNs than stock outwards, or more DOM than, it's basically a inventory vouchers. So if you have that also, for example, what will happen? I have some 10,000 purchases and I have only some 2,000 stock. Whenever it loads the company, it will walk through all the purchases for the inwards and then it will walk through all the sales to the outwards. We are not telling that you should not have that scenario. In those scenarios, you can easily inform the customer, but it will take time because the valuation behavior is such that it has to walk through all the information to fetch you the exact closing stock value. If that answers the question. Okay. So this is in the case of company loading type term in case of a FIFO valuation method. Now we are going to the next slide. Mr. Narasimha's question, if there is a problem in hard disk also, it will take time. So it's a good observation basically. Mr. Vikas, just now I have explained, if you want, I will, there is no issue, we will explain again once again. So more inwards, I will take the question one by one. More inwards and less outwards is nothing but if you have more number of purchases and less number of sales. So that is also one of the scenario wherein the loading company takes time because it has to walk through all the valuation behavior itself is such that it has to walk through all the inwards and outwards. Mr. Anil's question, let me answer one by one. More inwards and less outwards have ended, and it should not take time. Mr. Vikas's question is but if it is vice versa, whether it will take time, it will take less time. Right? If still there is any problem, we need to handle and in that case, basically. Right? What was the question from Anil? And there was a good point made by Mr. Narasimha. So it differs from hard disk to hard disk also. For example, if you have a Seagate and this we need to check it out, Mr. Narasimha. This may be a new scenario. We will check it out. We need to check it out. We will get back to you on this. Is that okay? Because from Tally it has not been tested. We need to check it out. Surely you will get the sessions which you have already told. We will get a recorded session. Okay. Mr. Vikas, can you just ask the question once again to chat? Ask more RPM means we are not understanding that. Please, if you don't mind, can you just key in the chat again? Can we proceed? Please respond me back so that I can continue. Hello? You are able to hear me? Okay. We'll continue. Now you are able to hear me, Mr. Anand. Okay, company loading takes time if there is due to network issue, right? Okay. We were in this slide actually. It is recommended to add Tally.ERP 9 file and Tally.ERP 9 file. And TDS server.exe in the exclusion list of server and client machines, and we have already concluded with the scenario 4, company data takes time while loading the company in case of FIFO stock valuation method. Now, company loading takes time loading takes time in the client machine due to network issue. Checklist. What are the network checklists which need to be shared? Mr. Sanjay Kumar's question is why Tally takes time while accepting the voucher. As and when Mr. Sanjay, we are also having that as a part of discussion. We will surely discuss in details when it comes. So currently we will walk through this presentation, this scenario when we go to the other things, we will definitely discuss it out. Right, sir? Can we continue? Okay, thank you. So the first and foremost thing what needs to be done is you have to check the ping speed between server to client and client to server. Right? You have to check that ping speed. How to check a ping speed? For example, I can show you. Go to command prompt. Ping space DRAHMA is the server name. Space -T. So by default you will do this thing. If there is any variation while doing when checking the ping speed itself, it is recommended to check with the system admin. Right? This is how the command will be checked. So not only this will surely give you 1 ms. Right? So in addition to that, you can, based on the network configuration, you can copy a file which has the network is 100 Mbps. You can copy a file which has a file size of around 200 MB. So I will copy a data. So the data is of 100 MB, if the network is using having a 100 MB present anything, we can let us copy this file which has a 221 MB and check the difference. So I am copying and pasting here. So there is, even then when I am copying a file which has a 200 MB, there is no variation in the ping speed. There was a bit variation, but after that the copying was also faster. That means if a read write both is faster in case of this particular network. Right? In such cases, if there is any huge variation, right? If there is any huge variation in the ping speed, it is recommended to check the network switch / cable and inform the system admin to recheck the same. You will have in case of an organization, you will have an IT person, and you can check. You can ask the customers to check the reason for delay in network. For example, the scenario is like if I have a Cat5 and Cat6 mixed cable. If I have a Cat5 and Cat6 mixed cable, there is a chance of performance crunch because Cat5 has a different, category 5 cable has a different feature altogether, and category 6 has a better feature when compared to category 5. Right? That is one of the scenarios we can check. And if there is any huge variation, and you can also check depending upon the network bandwidth. It is recommended that 70% of the actual bandwidth should be available in the network. How you can check these things? You can check, but there will be a lot of network monitoring tools available in the Google. You can Google it and you can check the network bandwidth, read write speed also. If the network bandwidth is 100 Mbps, then at any given point of time, 70 Mbps should be available so that that particular network will be a good network wherein your read and write activity or data processing activity, data accessing activity will be fast, will be at a manageable speed. Right? If it is below that, if it is 60% or 55% or 50%, then the network needs to be relooked. Because we are sharing based on the analysis and the case-to-case what we have handled over here after the issues are getting escalated. The above solutions can be checked with the help of network monitor tool. That is what we were discussing now. And a free tool available for download. It is a free tool. Network monitoring tool is a free tool which is available for download. Can we continue? Is it okay? Can you, are you able to follow? Please respond back to the chat so that I can check it out. So we can continue. So the next scenario is voucher entry takes time. So we will continue. Now the next thing is like voucher entry takes time in the server. The scenario is in the server, voucher entry takes time in the server. What is the checklist is it supposed to follow? Check again the same thing, check the physical memory and physical memory used and available memory. Check whether the Tally.ERP is exploded in the antivirus list. Check is there any post-dated vouchers in the database. Why this post-dated vouchers will cause the problem is because whenever I am entering the voucher, it will check basically the current dated and is there any vouchers available in the post-dated, and then it gives you the completion of vouchers in the server. So that will take a time. So this we have there were two scenarios wherein in case of auto finance dealers wherein there will be a more number of post-dated vouchers. It is not that 10-15 post-dated vouchers if you are having it will take time. If the post-dated entry, if the volume itself it goes to thousands together, in such cases there is a chance of voucher entry acceptance will take a time. Right? So then check if there are any instances where multiple instances of Tally.ERP is being used. Remember, each instance of Tally contributes the memory utilization. Ensure that only if there are any unused Tally, if there is any unused Tally, that unused Tally can be closed such that the process will be used for the active Tally, such that the process will be completed in a faster pace. Right? Solution again, that it talks about the same thing. Ensure that the system has a sufficient memory. Right? If the files are not excluded, exclude such files in the exception list of antivirus. If there are more post-dated vouchers, then the voucher entry will take a time. It depends upon the volume of the data and the volume of the post-dated entry. Ensure that there are no multiple instances of Tally.ERP running, which we have already discussed. Okay? So, this is how you can manage in case of server. If voucher entry takes time in client machine, what is supposed to be done? Right? What you are supposed to check? Again, you have to check the ping speed between server to client and client to server, which we have discussed for even for the company loading. Right? Same thing. And while checking the ping speed, you have to copy a file size which has a 300 MB of files, and you can check it out based on the network process. Check whether the files are excluded in the antivirus. Mr. Adarsh, participant from Adarsh Software question is, in network environment, buffering for a long while saving a voucher entry at client system. See, we are, Mr. Adarsh, surely we are covering one by one scenario. The regions also we will cover and the solutions also we will cover. So, see, there are multiple various possibilities. See, there was one scenario wherein customer was using a web-sense firewall. Web-sense firewall, wherein in some of the client machines it was taking time, and wherein in some of the client machines it was faster. In such cases, that's what we will discuss it out with others. Is that okay? Please revert to me in a message so that we can continue the session. Mr. Anil wants to see the previous screen. Sorry, actually there was a delay in the network actually. Now you are able to see, sir. Mr. Narasimha wants to see the previous slide, and Mr. Vikash wants to see the previous slide. How we will find the bandwidth available in the network? So that can be, I will answer Mr. Nagaraj Kumar's question is how we can find the network bandwidth. So you can just right click, open network and sharing properties, right? You can go to local area connection. You can see the network speed here. This is how you can see the network bandwidth which is being used. Is that answers, Mr. Is that answers? And Mr. Prateek is Mudgal. Company loading is not taking in the list 4.9, but after upgrading to 4.91 it is taking time. Again, it depends on the exclusions and other stuff. So please, you can check it out once. If there is any problem, you can escalate such issues, we can see it out. Mr. Nagaraj Kumar wanted to know how you can set the network bandwidth, and running more applications other than Tally will reduce network speed. Yes, you need to check those things also, sir. Mr. Nagaraj's question is, if there are any other applications other than Tally, will it reduce the network speed? Yes, if it is a network or network-oriented application, surely it will reduce that. Right? So we will continue with the current next slide. Shweta's question is like, what about if the data contains a lot of post-dated vouchers? Data entry will certainly take time because it has to walk through all the information, Shweta. So it will take time. It should not take more time. It should take within like if it is taking 1 minute currently, that is acceptable because it has to walk through all the post-dated information to give you the balances. Right? So we will continue with the next slide. So voter entry takes time in case of client machine. So what are the checklists you need to check? Check the ping speed. Again, ensure that no other network applications are running which is network resource oriented. Again, the ping speed you need to check. While checking the ping speed, you have to do this activity, copy network listing file which has 300 MB and check what is the process. Check whether the files are excluded from the antivirus software. Check is there any external firewall. That is what we were discussing. Actually, if there is any web-sent firewall, in one such case wherein we identified there was a web-sent firewall which was expired. There was a web-sent firewall which was expired. That was also contributing to the performance degradation. So that also needs to be checked because basically these performance issues will be handled in a case-to-case basis. Check if there are any instances of where multiple Tally.ERP names is being used. This also needs to be checked. Check if there are any customizations used. This is also a must. Again, so at the beginning of this session, a lot of discussion had about what is SMB, what is the different versions of SMB, and what it contributes internally for the Tally. Why Tally is so why we are covering this SMB session in a performance concept, because Tally is also one of the Windows which will use the Windows file share resource. If you are having an indifferent system or indifferent mixture of operating systems, let's say for example if you have a Windows XP, Windows 7 combination, Windows 8 combination, that means you have a SMB 1, 2, 2.1, 3. So you have a different mixture of operating systems which are with a different SMB flavor. So in such cases, yes, it is a proven fact, it will take time. So check if there are any users accessing the reports during the voter entry. Since Tally is being a single threaded application, Tally will give read activity preferences. So you need to check is there any users who will be accessing the report during that. So we are coming to the solution part. Right? Voter entry takes time. Client continued. Solution. If there are huge variation, again you have to check is there any combination of Cat5 and Cat6, is there any Wi-Fi systems involved, is there any other operations. You have to take precautions accordingly. So again, depending upon the network bandwidth, it is recommended to use that we have already discussed when we are troubleshooting for the server company loading. It holds good here also. So there are a lot of network tools available you can download and you can check. So basically again, here also ensure that the system configuration is same in all the client machines. If you have an indifferent system configuration, for example in one machine I have a 4 GB RAM with i5 processor, in one machine we have a i3 with 2 GB RAM, and in one machine we have a Core 2 Duo with 4 GB RAM. So each processor will perform according to its requirement. It will be saying in case of a i3 with 4 GB RAM, the time taken to accept a voucher will take 3 seconds, whereas in case of a Core 2 Duo machine with 2 GB RAM, it may take 8 seconds. Depends upon the processor speed also matters here. It is recommended to use the same system configuration in the client machine. Because of that, it is recommended. Again, we were talking about the SMB flavors, different SMB flavors, different operating system which is being used. What will happen? We will take a scenario. Server is having a 2003, and clients of Windows 7, Windows XP, and Windows 8. In this case, what will happen if there are machines which have Windows XP and Windows 7? If you isolate that machine, if you have a same SMB protocol, there will be no performance issues. Moment when you include these operating systems, there will be a performance crunch. So in that case, it is recommended to use same operating system, same SMB operating system. Either you can upgrade it to the higher operating system, or you can isolate those things and you can check the permutations and combinations, and based on that you can conclude. Basically, it is Mr. Sai Kumar wanted to know, it is network LAN speed test tool. It is actually LAN speed test tool. It is a LAN speed test tool, right? So, check by disabling TDS. If there are any TDS being used, please just check by disabling those TDS. If there is any improvement in the performance, then it is recommended to optimize the customization, disable external firewalls, and check the voucher entry performance. When we were discussing about one such cases wherein customer was using a Western firewall which was outdated, even though it is not used by him, it was still exist in his environment. One moment when we recommended him to uninstall all those things, the performance was improved. So based on these cases, we have added such things which need to be looked in. Is it too fast? Can we continue? Can we continue? Sir, are you able to hear me? Okay, we will continue with the next thing. So if there are any reports accessed during the voucher entry, please ensure that since it will take time, right? So this is one more unique issue which is being raised from the market. Voucher entry takes time. So there was a Pratik's question. Pratik Muskal's question is like, if attached account median to Tally.ERP, it is not responding, but if the attached local TDS, there is no issue. Then in that case, Mr. Pratik, we need to check the connectivity part. We need to check the connectivity between Tallynet to the local machine, so that you need to, it has a different parameters. You have to check, is there any variations in internet connectivity? Is there any, is he using any router, firewalls, those things? Is that answer to your question, Mr. Pratik? Please send a message with chat. Okay, thank you, Pratik. So we will continue. Voucher entry takes time during DRS activity. This is the frequently asked question. It is a very good question from Mr. Vikas. How we can stop management to view reports when the voucher entry is being done. Mr. Because how frequently the management will be accessing the report? Will they be accessing the live report? If they are not accessing the live report, if they are accessing the historical report, then we can try some other options such as enabling local sync in the server itself so that you can give a separate access to them. The participant from Expense Solution wanted to know how much time it will take. It will take 30 minutes more. Okay, coming back to Mr. Vikas's question. See, in that case, if the management is accessing a historical report, we wanted to know the health of a business or financial position of a business, then what can be done is, like in the server itself, you can set up a local sync option, and you can give for live users you can give a separate you can create a separate data, and for the management purpose you can create a separate data. Then you can check. Is that answers your question, Mr. Vikas? Mr. Power's question is like we need to check it out. No, but Mr. Vikas has a good question point to make again. Moment when you copy that, so you can try this option. You can try the sync option in a leisure kind of a period, in a free time, like maybe a lunch hour or at the end of the day, so that management will have a latest available data. It is not just live data they will get. Those things. So Mr. Power's question is like how to think. That means it's already discussed. You can check with the help of a command prompt, or you can use the command. You can use the command ping space server name. You will get the ping details. Is that answers your question, Mr. Power? Can we continue? Sorry. Mr. Power, yes, you can. Okay, Mr. Rajaram, Mr. Rajaram, you can use the command prompt ping space the server name, so that you can continue. You will get the request response from the server. If you want to know the Ethernet card, command for the Ethernet card, it is recommended to check with the system admin, sir. Thank you very much. We will continue. So, the next frequently raised issues are voucher entry takes time during BRS activity. Voucher entry is also a write activity, and BRS is also a write activity to the data. Check whether the BRS Check whether the BRS time taken during the BRS activity. Solution would be, since BRS is also an write activity, the request will be accepted sequentially, since Tally.ERP is a single thread application. Right, sir? So what else you can do? Possible solution would be suggest to perform the BRS during leisure time, that is during lunch break or at the beginning or at the end of the day, so that it will not disturb the existing activity. One of the customers also they have done this, so it is working. So now we are shifting from the voucher entry to the report part. There are frequently accessed reports, like while accessing reports such as moment analysis, Gordon summary takes time, and sometimes it gives you out of memory. Right? So what is the checklist? Again, you have to check the data as per the below data type, total number of vouchers, total number of accounting masters, total number of inventory masters, number of batches if any, check the memory consumptions of Tally.ERP 9, check for the customizations if any, check if the stock items are grouped under multiple layers. The example is, I have a stock item which is grouped under multiple group and categories. Yes, Mr. Vikas, I am Shankar Murthy, why yes? Ms. Vaishali, sometimes it shows memory access violation at the time of BRS activities, so what we can do? Ms. Vaishali's question is good. Actually, this is, since we are having a performance troubleshooting session, the other session, data and technical troubleshooting session, I'll answer to your question, don't worry. This particular scenario is already, we are already looking into it. It depends upon the case-to-case basis, and it will be addressed in the next release. Is that answer to your question, Ms. Vaishali? Can we proceed, Ms. Vaishali? Okay, thank you very much. You have to check, you have, what we were discussing about the checklist, what needs to be done. Check if the stock items are grouped. Yes. Mr. Vikas' question is, that means to say if you have multiple hierarchies, complex hierarchies, it will consume more resource. Yes, Mr. Vikas, it will take more resource because it has to fetch the information. We have come across such scenarios also. There are customers who are using multiple complex scenarios. In such cases, it will take time. Right? Solution would be, if the data size is more than then it will take time because it has to process the information. If the physical memory consumption is reached 2 GB, I am talking about referring to the point number 2, then it is recommended to use native 64-bit system, operating system and native Tally.ERP 64-bit memory wherever the error occurs out of memory in case of 32-bit because of paging. Right? So you can also check by disabling the TDL. If there is any improvement, it is suggested to optimize the TDL part. In addition, it is also recommended to check the ping speed between server to client and client to server as a part of the normal checklist. So that sums up about the session of performance troubleshooting. Hope it was this session was more informative. We will come up with more and more sessions in future. So you can share your valuable feedback with me. So hope so I have tried to address all the questions in the session itself. If there are any questions, please now we can discuss it out. Mr. Sanjay wants to ask some other question. And gateway of business. The question is, I have faced many times the error message memory access violation 4.81 to 4.91 and unable to solve while trying to zero read also it gives you a problem. In this case, sir, please escalate such issues to our team. We will definitely give you the solution. In addition, it is also we are trying to fix this problem in 5.0. Sorry, next release. And Mr. Sanjay has some question. So you wanted to, Ms. Sumati, Mr. Vikas's question is, yes, it means that different assemblies should be avoided. Yes, sir. It needs to be avoided. So that Mr. Vikas, no, Mr. Vikas' question is like, is it 5.0 a multi-thread application? No, sir, it is not a multi-thread application. Still, it will be a single-thread application. Mr. C. Narasimha's question is, for Tally server and for threads, how much is the processor and RAM required, and one Tally server and 10 clients with 15 companies? Sir, again, Mr. Narasimha, it depends upon the base data size. You have to check the data size as we discussed earlier. Again, Ms. Vaishali, we have already discussed. This will be slowly addressed in the next release. Sanjay Kumar has a question. If I pass material out for any item, if I have to see the stock item movement analysis, again it will be a functional issue. We can discuss it out in a functional session, please. Mr. Vikas' question is, yes, it will be multi-threaded application in case of Series B. It should be fine, sir. Mr. Nagaraj's question is, I have Win732-bit 3 GB RAM data. It should work actually. 3 GB RAM with Win7. So, anything else? Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we can address. So, ledgers, but I am getting out of memory in TDS entry, Mr. Nagaraj Kumar. Please share your valuable feedback. Sir, please share your valuable feedback, and you can send a mail also. So, webinar@tallyservices.com is the host team. That will it will further improve our session. We can try improving our session. And Sumati wants to run 7, 8, 9 and 10. I am going back to that. Surely, Shweta, you will get a presentation recording. We will share you the recordings actually. So basically, it's above showing this thing. Concepts of performance. And memory allocation, that's all. So thank you very much. You can, we will share you with the PPT, no issue. So thank you very much for participating in this session, and shortly we will come up with good, future also will get a good session. Thank you very much, sir, and we are concluding the session. Thank you very much.